Welcome back. We've got a fun podcast for you guys today. And here it is. Are you a text offender? 10 ways your message are sabotaging your success. And this is going to be a fun show. Julie's written a lot of great points. And I want to start out by saying happy birthday, Julie.
Thank you, and happy birthday to you as well. It is indeed our birthday week.
Yes, it's our birthday week. And so thank you for all of you who have said such wonderful things. I don't know how many, but maybe 600 of you have,
Thank you.
sent us happy birthdays and all the different messaging apps. So if you're wondering how you can actually stay connected with us, or when you're messaging us over on Instagram, just give us a follow. That's it. That's your birthday present to us. I'll follow over on Instagram. And also today's notes, I always want to remind you guys, because we always get messages, and what got me thinking about this was mentioning Instagram, where someone's going to say, what was your fourth point today? I didn't have a chance to write it down. Or Julie said point number 6, and then she kept on talking about point number 5. And I get it. You guys want this information. You know that we're going to be, really drilled down the details we give you. Well, if you want our notes, you got to subscribe to our newsletter, which is harrisrealestatedaily.com. So just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com, drop in your email address, and then you've got to go over to your normal email, and you just got to double opt in and confirm you want the subscription, and you'll get our newsletter every single day. Our newsletter isn't just the notes; it's also the video of that day's show. And then, by the way, if you're just listening to us strictly over on iTunes and Spotify and Stitcher and all the other traditional podcast listening devices, we are broadcasting now over on YouTube. So this show is being recorded.
Get this real quick.
Okay. That means Julie's getting a call from Zoe's school, because that's the only reason she would have answered that phone call. That's my prediction. Watch when she comes back. That's the only way she would have answered that phone call. All right. So listen, guys, we're going to be focusing on today. We're staying on a communications theme. Hopefully you're picking that up from what we started talking about yesterday and the day before. And so why is communication so important? And why will it always be so important, especially in this day and age of all this technical stuff? In this day and age where everybody communicates digitally, where everyone is being taught, and all the books you read and all the YouTube videos, everything is about all these clever ways that you can communicate with people. What we are hoping to convince you of is the way to truly differentiate yourself in the marketplace isn't to completely ignore all of that advice, but ignore most of it and realize that if everyone else is communicating digitally, if you're going to communicate voice to voice or person to person, you're automatically going to have an edge. And Julie shared with you guys yesterday a statistic that shows that most people prefer voice-to-voice conversations. They don't want the digital. So what we're seeing is like everyone was assuming. I'll give you guys an example from the car nerd world, right? So you guys may or may not know that I started a little podcast as a hobby, mostly a month or so ago, called Full Throttle Talk. And it's me and a couple of car guys that I know. And the podcast is doing really, really well. And one of the things we'll never talk about on the podcast is electric cars. Why? It's not because electric cars aren't great and because they don't have their purpose, but because what we saw in the marketplace was everyone was talking about electric cars, how they're the greatest thing. You guys remember, it's only been like 5 years since people started talking about electric cars. Then all of a sudden people had them. Then people realized they don't really like them. They don't really want them. They missed what they had before. And now we saw electric cars have experienced this dramatic depreciation as a result of the market rejecting electric cars, because that is in essence what's happened. And so now and all the manufacturers were losing their butts because nobody wanted their electric cars. And now everyone's coming back. The manufacturers are coming back and saying, we're going to go back to making what people actually want to buy. Now, that's what's happened in electric cars. And I'm promising you the exact same thing is happening in obviously a different way with regards to how people want to be communicated with. Everybody else is going electric, right? Everyone else is going digital. You need to go back to old school analog. And that's where people want to meet you. And it's not just older people, it's younger people too. Matter of fact, that's what really fascinates me is younger folks who have grown up mostly digital. Everything's been Zoom. Everything's been like, the expectation was your interface with the world is going to be through a keyboard. They're the ones that are wanting the analog communication more than the digital communication. But of course, people that are Julie and I's generation or older, they're definitely going to prefer people that know how to actually talk. So what we're doing is, yes, of course, we know about all the digital stuff. That's how we're communicating with you guys right now. We have the #1 listened to daily podcast for real estate agents in the United States. We have, all these other things, and they're all digital. So we know how to do the master the digital social media and all that. But the real way that you're going to communicate and transact into the future is going to be doing the opposite of what everyone else is doing and just go old school, if you want to call it that. or frankly, just get into connection with the direction the market's headed, which is wanting to have more analog type conversations. Does that make sense, Julie?
It absolutely does, without rejecting, the world we live in with a lot of digital. That's why I think this week is taking on a bit of a communication theme between yesterday's podcast and today. We're talking about, are you a text offender? We're not saying stop texting, but we are saying that you've got to be aware that it's almost like different languages. I talked about the podcast I listened to yesterday, Away with Words. They talk about this a lot, that it depends what you were brought up on. Were you brought up digitally, as maybe certain generations were more than others? It also is regional. Like, when we lived in Texas, people would hang out after, you met with them to mow your lawn, but then they'd hang out with you to share some barbecue tips, right? It was more of a face-to-face cultural thing that we felt more regionally. So there's different types of communication, and we all have to mix them up and understand that there's different translations that happen. And that's why today we're dedicating to texting. So 10 ways your messages might be sabotaging your success. Are you ready to rumble on those?
Let's go.
Okay. So are you tired of your text messages causing more confusion than closings in the real estate world? Wondering if you may have offended a prospect? Curious if you're being ghosted sometimes? We've curated the ultimate guide to texting etiquette. And yes, I have researched a lot of this, so some of these things might be surprising to some of you. From dodging grammatical gaffes to perfecting your timing, these 10 rules are your secret weapon to message triumph. So, are you ready for rule number 1? Keep it professional, not personal. Save the emojis and slang for your personal chats. In business, we use proper language and leave the LOLs for after hours. Use real words to do real business. If this is what your text sounds like, you're breaking rule number 1. Are you ready?
Let's go.
OMG, I was ROFL when my BFF told me TBH about her date last night. It was TMI, but LOL. I couldn't stop laughing. You got to love things IRL, right?
If you guys aren't watching on YouTube as Julie was reading that, you're missing something.
Yeah. For example. Okay.
But unfortunately, that sounds a lot like our 11-year-old.
Well, and when she's talking 11-year-old to 11-year-old, or if I'm talking to her, or if it's your best friend and you're not talking business, then fine. But you want to make sure that you're not having communication like that and expecting a professional response.
Julie, can we give them a parenting tip that you and I have cleverly figured out?
So tell me, I don't know which one. There's been so many we've had to work on.
I know. So if you've got a kid who loves the little ROLs and all the other things, LOLs and all these little, code ways that kids like to speak, all you've got to do is learn them and use them. And as soon as they hear you using it once, it's no longer cool and they'll stop using it.
Totally.
So
good secret weapon.
I watch when Zoe is saying something, she's trying to do it in kid code. That's what Julie and I call it. And then we'll figure out what it is. And then we'll say it back to her. And I always watch her facial expressions. She'll go like, she'll hear me say it and she'll smile. And then sometimes she'll give me like a little sneer. Oh, you figured that one out. And then you never hear it come out of her little mouth again.
It's awesome.
It is.
But then she'll come up with something new.
Exactly. Anyway.
Okay. So texting rule number 2. Grammar police are on duty. Avoid committing grammatical crimes in your texts. Remember, autocorrect is not your friend, but proofreading is. Check your work before you hit send. There, THERE, THEIR, and THEY apostrophe RE are not interchangeable. Use punctuation. My favorite example is, let's eat, Grandpa. It differs from, let's eat, Grandpa. Let's eat, Grandpa. Or let's eat, Grandpa, right? Get it? So, and
no,
I see this.
I don't understand. No, I didn't understand. Listeners, are you understanding? Again, if you're watching on YouTube, you can watch Julie not like having to be put on the spot about the difference between eating Grandpa and say, let's eat with Grandpa.
Well, one has a comma and the other one doesn't. And people do delete a lot of punctuation and it can be misconstrued, usually unintentionally. But you don't want to overcomplicate your communication is the point, right?
Well, but Julie, I think you can put, like, there's a lot of autocorrect that's comes on your phone, but I'm pretty sure that Grammarly, that app will actually work on your phone for texting as well. But I will caution you guys, a lot of the times, Julie and I've seen, especially with AI, and we're testing, there's like 4 dominant AIs now. It's really fascinating. If you have like Chat GPT write something for you, and this applies to text too, and then you have Grammarly on your computer, Grammarly will find a ton of mistakes that the chat GPT left in the thing that it just wrote for you, even though you would assume it had already checked itself, it doesn't. And so, you guys got to always, be mindful of the fact that this technology is wonderful and amazing, but it's not foolproof.
You have to proofread.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, rule number 3, identify yourself. Don't confuse your recipient. Start your text with your name to avoid confusion. I think we've all had things where, oh, that's not the Josh I thought I was communicating with. That's a different Josh that I knew from school, but I thought I knew him from the gym. But, so identify yourself. Unless you're texting a psychic, they're not going to know it's you without a little bit of help, at least now and then, maybe every other text. Use your last name so you're not confused with Bob the dog walker, Larry the lazy lender, or someone with a similar phone number that is not you. So that's an easy enough one, right? Rule number 4, timing is everything. Just because you woke up at 2 a.m. with real estate night sweats and want to alleviate your stress by banging out a text does not mean that the other agent, your buyer prospect, your seller client, or the appraiser wants to share in your insomnia. Respect the clock and save business conversations for business hours. This also applies to time zones. 9 a.m. in New York is not 9 a.m. in Hawaii. There are lots of time zone converter apps, so don't guess. Just get world clock on your phone. Some of you, this is more of an issue than others. But, we all have 2 a.m. real estate night sweats. You wake up and you think, oh, yeah, maybe I'm out of that home inspection time frame, or, oh, that's that person I got to call back. Don't just automatically bang out a text. That could be waking somebody up. Maybe it's going to bing and you just woke up their newborn baby. That's not going to go well for you. Make sense?
That's right. No, it does. I was going to quick reminder, make sure on your phones, especially on an iPhone, you set up your profile picture and all your contacts in there, because that way when you text somebody, it will essentially send your e-card along with it on the text. You guys have experienced this. Hopefully you have. But if you don't have your profile set up on your phone, you're losing an easy way to stay in connection with people, because then all they have to do is say add to contacts, and that takes your picture and all your contacts and drops it into their contacts. And then when you text them again, or if you call them again, it's not like if you call a lot of people because they have their phone set up so that unidentified phone numbers automatically roll to voicemail. So that's not going to work to your benefit. So you're going to want to send them complete your profile. They'll most likely they'll add it to their phone book, as it were. And then anytime you communicate with them, either through text or through calling them, your information, including your picture, will show up on their phone. A little hack, but it definitely works to improve the level in which you can effectively communicate with people, especially in text or, frankly, phone calls.
An excellent top tip. I appreciate that. So rule number 5, get straight to the point. Don't beat around the bush in your texts. Be as clear and direct as possible. Remember, you're not writing a mystery novel. Less is more. You can get backburnered, lowered in priority, or deleted when you write too much. Don't make it such a heavy lift for your readers. We probably all have something right now waiting in our text that we've mentally backburnered because there was just too much text there. And you can't, text is meant to be short, bite-sized piece and very direct form of information. If you look at it and it's like 3 paragraphs long, maybe you only had 30 seconds to get something out of it and you automatically backburner it. And by the time you go back to your text, it's scrolled down and you could forget about it.
Let me give you guys, this is a tie into yesterday's show with regards to lead follow-up and answering the phone when someone calls and all the rest of it. When you get a text from somebody, don't make the mistake of assuming that they don't want or wouldn't prefer you to call. They may be texting you, not because they don't want to talk to you, but because they think you're too busy and they're trying to be considerate. Simply put. So you make a practice of always calling anyone back on the phone, no matter how they initiate conversations with you. Always call them back, because what does that tell them when you call them back? It tells them that you are professional. It tells them that you respect them. It tells them that you prioritize them. It tells them that you're going to obviously be that way when they choose to do business with you, or if they're already doing business with you. All good things. No bad things happen when you call everyone back, no matter how they initiate conversation with you. Again, a lot of stupid things out there that are giving you guys these stupid rules about if someone texts you, only text them. If someone Facebooks you, only Facebook them. If someone Instagram messages you, only message them back on blah, 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 blah. In other words, you're somehow stuck in this communication cage based on how they initiate conversation with you. That's dumb. When you get any form of communication from any outlet, from anyone, obviously we're talking professionally speaking here, Call them back. Always call them back. And if they say, and they may, I prefer that we just communicate through text, great. Now you have the answer. But what you did is if they were texting maybe 2 or 3 different potential agents and you're the one that called back, we know, remember yesterday, I told you guys, 90% of all consumers will work with the first agent that they meet. And nowadays, meeting, close to meeting, is calling voice to voice. That'll give you an advantage. Think like that. Think urgently. Don't be passively at anything, especially in a market like this.
That's right. And that does tie into yesterday's podcast where we were talking about how to stop being ghosted. Well, if somebody texts you, you know that they're right there looking at their phone right now. You know you can get them, right? And if they're busy or they, to your point, if they say, I can't talk right now, just text me, then you can respect that. But I'll give you a real world example of calling when somebody texts. One of our coaching clients, you remember Sue and Rachel Romans up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Minnesota. I think of them as the same state. Sorry. They recently took a listing and this was somebody that they didn't know. They had gotten a call from I think it was a coming soon sign they were putting in the neighborhood in their newest listings yard. And the person said, I texted 3 different agents. You are the only one who called me back. And it's been 3 days since I tried with the other 2 agents. So there are people that will pre-qualify you off of your ability to communicate. That's why, when we talk about 800 Home Hotline, that's a huge thing, is being there when they want their questions answered.
That's your pro tip for today, guys. Go to 800homehotline.com and check out that company. If absolutely all of our coaching clients, we always tell you guys, our coaching clients, to definitely subscribe to 800 Home Hotline. It's one of the most effective ways of generating listing and buyer leads for virtually no cost whatsoever. 1-800homehotline.com. So Julie, Premier Coaching, you guys love what you're getting on this podcast. We know you do, because thousands of you listen, download, and view every single day. Our podcast is one of the top, what were we told? One of the top 500 podcasts in the world now, and one of the top 5 podcasts in the entire real estate space in the United States. I mean, I have no idea, honestly, when we win these awards, how they're coming up with these statistics, but there you go. So yes, we know you love this podcast. You will adore Premier Coaching. Why haven't you joined Premier Coaching? And if you were in Premier Coaching before, you need to seriously consider rejoining. Why? Because Julie and I, for the last now 7 months, have gone through and revamped everything in Premier Coaching. And what we're really, truly excited about is that we're now including Ethical Real Estate Professional. Now, if you don't know what Ethical Real Estate Professional is, it's because you're not in Premier Coaching. I'll give you guys a little short code to that. Just go to ethicalrealestateprofessional.com or go to Google and just put in Ethical Real Estate Professional. That is our exclusive designation that all of our Premier Coaching clients are going to have access to, which will be the ultimate branding tool in your marketplace. Ethical Real Estate Professional is going to be the most preeminent, respected designation in the real estate space. Check it out. You'll understand and you'll agree when you see what it's all about. But yes, that is included with the Premier Coaching, and you can join Premier Coaching now for free, 30-day free access, and that includes a daily semi-private coaching call with one of our great Harris certified coaches. Every single day, a different Harris certified coach runs the semi-private coaching call, and you can be on there every single day, listening as others ask their questions, asking your own questions, and participating and being part of our community. You can join for free. There are no contracts, no gotchas. Just go to premiercoaching.com or click the link below to join. Julie, next point.
Yes. Rule number 6, back to texting. Don't be a text offender. Privacy, please. Keep confidential information from your text conversations. You don't want to sway a negotiation wrong, overshare, or breach your agency relationship. No negotiation should be done via text. And states have laws about what constitutes an agreement, a digital signature, or a contract. So you do have to be careful about this. Just because you have E&O insurance doesn't mean that you should want to use it. So when in doubt, err on the side of don't overshare. Once you cross into any kind of negotiating, whether that's a minor home inspection thing or a $100,000 sway in price, you have to say to yourself, I'm not going to do this in text.
Well, Julie, do you really think that errors and emissions insurance is going to cover anybody that was negotiating in text? The answer has to be
Probably not.
no.
Probably
I'd
not.
go with no. Yeah. But even outside of negotiating and text, really, I think ultimately, if you're in you just staying on negotiation, you lose so much color and intent with texting than actually talking with somebody. Because when you guys are listening to somebody speak, let alone looking at them, your brain is working at a higher level than just reading a bunch of, emojis, right? your brain is actually looking at all the micro expressions. There's all kinds of communication that's happening when you're actually talking to someone, let alone looking at them while you're talking to them. So make sure you're using all the advantages that are out there when you're doing any kind of communication. Remember, if you want to know how to differentiate yourself, make yourself different. Don't say I'm different. Make yourself different. Be the person that picks up the phone, has meaningful, purposeful conversations about being of help and helping someone else accomplish their other goal, buying or selling real estate. And you will see your business flourish for just putting a little bit extra effort. And you'll feel so much prouder of yourself because you finally see yourself rising to the agent you've always dreamt of being.
Very well said. Rule number 7, we talk about it all the time. It's called a furiously fast follow-up. Speedy replies are the superhero of business texting, and better than immediate texting. Of course, what Tim said, just call them right back. But don't keep your colleagues waiting like they're stuck in the never-ending queue. Fast fingers save your day. Urgency could mean winning or losing a deal, winning or losing a client, winning or losing a negotiation, earning the respect that you want from that client. So urgency does matter.
And Julie, it's funny too, with texting, there is an implied assumption that someone's not going to get back with you. If people are using texting as an excuse to be rude, and here's the other thing that's kind of funny, interesting, I would say, not funny, is that it takes longer to send a text dip, 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 than it does than it does actually to pick up the phone and have a phone call.
It's true what you said. I think some texting is for sure a little passive aggressive at times.
Yeah.
Or maybe wasn't intended to be that, but could be construed that way. I think we could have like a 0.7.5 here. I was thinking as you were talking, a lot of times it is perceived that way, but it wasn't intended that way. And I think a lot about people who English is their second, third, or fifth language, where you and I joke all the time when we get something from our Puerto Rican accountant, and it's like this super direct email that's like 10 words and 2 sentences long. And it sounds like dead serious. And it's really just some minor form that they want. But because English isn't their first language and because it's accounting, it's got to sound like, oh my God, the sky is falling. And I know that they're not intending to create panic attacks, but that's the perception.
They have the bedside manner in the nature of how they communicate, similar to what an execution, like the guy that operated the guillotine back, for the French, the same level of bedside manner communication, none.
Very, very low on the, yeah. And I've had both coaching clients and personal friends where, it's just, I'm sure I'm the way when I'm speaking Spanish, I probably come off exactly the same way because my vocabulary isn't as rich as they're used to. I probably come off more direct than I mean. I think about some of our Russian friends where they answer it in 1 or 2 words. And I'm like, I find myself wanting more or misconstruing. But if I talk to them in person, it's not like that. And I've had many coaching clients where English is not their first language and they do much better and they're way more comfortable, not just over the phone, but literally in person, face to face. They love door knocking. They like coffee meetings. They do their price reductions in person because they can talk with their hands. They can be face to face. Things don't get misconstrued like they do with short, maybe not very robust responses.
So I'd say, Julie, the big takeaway from today's points would be definitely be thinking about how you want to be communicated in text and realize it's an opportunity for you to distinguish or to make yourself more distinguished by making it so that you're more considerate with what you're saying and how you're saying it. But the biggest takeaway I would say is no matter how somebody originates conversation with you, always pick up the phone and call. I'm going to give you guys a personal example. I was debating whether or not I was going to use this as an example or not, but you know what? It's Julie's birthday, so I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Here we go.
So when we were Julie and I travel every summer and do personal travel, sometimes mix it with business, but this last summer we did personal travel. And so we were over in Europe and we were fortunately we're staying at some really nice places. And none of them would digitally communicate. All of them insisted on picking up the phone. And then when we had some of these other experiences, when you're experiencing the way that the high-end brands in the world, whether it be Hermes, or whether it be Ferrari, or whether it be, what was that hotel in Paris, Julie?
The Grand Powers.
The Grand Powers. Okay. Every single one of them All of them are going to make it so that digital is the fallback to the fallback to the fallback, and all of them are picking up the phone and having direct communication because it is such a simple, easy way of conveying the message at a higher level, but also to communicate and connect with the other person more succinctly and on a much more personal level. Because everyone is looking for that sense of connection, and digital will never deliver that sense of connection. And so you're seeing, again, if you want to know where the trends are with all this stuff and why we're harping on it so much, it's because we see it happening in the marketplace that the leaders of expectations of what really great customer service are, like the companies I just mentioned, they are intentionally moving away from any kind of passive communication. There is no mailing list for Hermes, okay? There is no mailing list for Ferrari, email list. There is no drip campaign. There's nothing like that. They call you and they communicate with you directly. That is the kind of experience that you have to ask yourself, why are they putting the extra effort into doing that? It's because their clients expect it, number one, because their clients don't want to deal with the digital. The digital is seen almost as a lowbrow, lazy form of communication, where direct verbal and obviously person-to-person communication is truly seen at what higher-end consumers want, but also what everyone else will soon be demanding as well. So if you want to know how to ultimately differentiate yourself in the marketplace, like we've made this point 1,000 times in today's show, pick up the phone, have face-to-face conversations. And now what are you going to say? You're going to use our scripts. You're going to use our pre-qualification scripts. You're going to internalize them. You're going to know the flow of the conversation. You're going to be a professional, and you will be surprised. Right now, you guys are spending so much money and time trying to create a whole bunch of contacts. You guys call them leads, but they're truly just contacts. Build your CRM, get more people you're dripping on. 10% will do a real estate deal. Not with you. There's a billion other agents who are also dripping on them. That whole fallacy is full of BS. The best agents in the world have the fewest number of leads. A lead is someone who's been fully pre-qualified, who's been vetted. You know their time frame. You know all the things that we teach you when you're pre-qualifying your leads. And the best agents in the world might have 12, 8, 15 leads total. That's it. Mostly seller leads in the real estate industry. That's all they're chasing. They do talk with everyone that comes into their life as showing up as a potential lead, and they pre-qualify them, determine what they are. And here's the thing that really makes people confused when I say it, but it is the truth. If you get somebody that shows up in your life today and you pre-qualify them, you use our scripts, and you figure out that they're not motivated, well, pigs fly, I'll buy sometime the next year. What do most agents do? Well, it's a lead. I'm going to drop them in my drip campaign. And then what? You're going to drip on them forever. And they've had that same conversation with 10 other agents. They're getting all these emails. They weren't serious in the first place. Everything's going to spam. You're wasting your time. You're giving up. The other thing it does, it creates this false sense of security that I've got all these leads and 10% are going to do a deal. And, that means that some of them are going to work with me. This is a fallacy, right? So what we want you to do instead is we want you to call everyone back, pre-qualify them, determine which ones are actually motivated to transact with you in 90 days or 120 days or less, and focus on those. And all the others that show up in your life that don't meet your very stringent criteria, you should consider just not even following up with them at all, just letting them go. Because statistically, long-term lead follow-up, listen to what I'm saying, doesn't work. You find a research project that proves me otherwise, there isn't one. We've researched it. We researched it for our book. Our editors researched it for our book. We've done podcasts. We've done interviews. Long-term lead follow-up is something that was conceived of by people selling you long-term lead follow-up campaigns in CRMs. But the true real estate practitioners or anybody selling anything knows what I'm saying is true. The war, the battle, the game is not won with lots of leads or lots of contacts. It's one with the fewest number of very motivated folks. And that's what you have to learn how to actually pull out. And hopefully you guys are internalizing that, especially after the last 3 days of shows. Julie, anything else you'd like to say, guys?
Well, I do want to speak to those of you who don't pick up the phone and don't call back quickly because you're afraid of what to say. And Tim, you said it with using pre-qualification scripts. I know I should pre-qualify, but what am I supposed to ask? That's why we have Premier Coaching. We even have scripts that are literally called scripts to save your bacon. Okay. Where it's like, what do I say? Some of you don't answer the phone because you're either new or newer, excuse me, or you're afraid they're calling on something that's out of your wheelhouse, Or maybe you're really experienced, but you just moved to a new market and you just feel like a fish out of water. So you're nervous to either pick up in the first place or call back quickly. Scripts to save your bacon are simple things like call them back or answer the phone. That's the most important thing. Stop expecting yourself to have all the answers to every last thing there is, because as soon as you feel like that, they're just going to change the rules anyway. Think about the commission lawsuits if you have any question about that.
But you're saying that too fast. So you're again, but you just said something that was really important. I want them to not let go in one or out the other. Excuse me, flu. So if you're avoiding calling people back, it's because you don't know what to say, you don't know how to say it, or you're fearful they're going to ask you a question that you don't know an answer to. That's
Right.
what Julia was just talking on. That's your ego. So if someone asks you a question you don't know the answer to, we give you a script for that. Script to save your bacon. You know what, Julie? That's an excellent question so that I give you the best answer. Let me do a little homework on that and I'll get back with you. That's it.
That's it. It's not hard. And then you say, what time should I reach you this evening? 5 o'clock? Okay, great. I'm going to call you back on this line at 5 o'clock with an answer. Stop expecting yourself to have all of the answers all of the time. That is ego. Okay. It may not feel like that to you. You just feel nervous, is what most agents would say. But it's your internal ego telling you you're supposed to have all of the answers, and it's costing you money. Every time you lose a potential lead, a real lead, as we define them, not a contact, who would be an appointment, who would turn into a listing, or maybe a buyer sale, or maybe both. If you look at the averages, that's costing you on average about $10,000 per not calling back, or not being there, or not calling back fast enough, or not using scripts when you do call back. Don't cost yourself that kind of money. You're too good for that. But you have to show that by being there for people when they're actually needing your help.
Right. So listen, guys, take the next natural step and join Premier Coaching. The link is below, or just simply go to premiercoaching.com. Thank you for keeping this the #1 daily downloaded podcast, or now viewed podcast, for real estate agents. You all have given Julie and I a professional purpose and reason to continue to do this, because the feedback that we get from all of you has really motivated us to take our game to the next level. Thus, we've increased the quality. Really, I don't necessarily know the quality, but we've increased the quantity, and I would say we've increased the intensity of everything that we do. And we're going to continue to do that. We've got a lot of great ideas. And there's one great idea that Julie and I are working on that, you know what, I'll tell you guys about on tomorrow's podcast. You won't believe this one. I'll give you the two things that we're working on right now, and both involve AI, but we're going to talk about that on tomorrow's show. So guys, please do like and subscribe. And if you're not in Premier Coaching, you know what to do. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you on the show tomorrow.